This is Charles Ford, and you checking out So Book and Cool right here, right now, live.
Welcome to So Booking Cool. It's Jewel B. Today I'm so excited because our guest is the author of the new book that you have to check out, The Anatomy of a Corporate Lynching. He is author Charles Ford.
Hello,
Charles,
Jewel.
hello, Charles. How is it
Yeah.
going? How's the new year been so far?
Very interesting, very interesting. Starting with that book, putting out that book at the very beginning of the year. Very interesting, very different, and I'm welcoming it all.
Okay. So yes, we have to get into the anatomy of a corporate lynching. What is the heart and soul of this book? And even though this is a book about your life, an event in your life, who did you write it for?
I wrote it for everybody who is creative. I wrote it for everybody who's going through a corporate situation or some kind of situation at work where they feel like they have nowhere to go, no one to help them, and to kind of show them that there is a way to handle things, because you hear stories all the time in the news about the term that somebody went postal, that whole term right there. A lot of times you go through stuff at work and it just riles you up and it makes you want to handle things like that. And being that I went through something where I could identify with that sentiment, I wrote about my experience so that people can see why I felt that way and show them what I went through, and to kind of show them that you can come out of it without resorting to those things that you had in mind.
Mm-hmm. So what inspired the title, The Anatomy of a Corporate Lynching? That's a powerful title, by the way.
Well, I wanted to show like the way that it was put together, because the body is an anatomy, and the body consists of different parts, what we call an anatomy that makes up the body. And in this case, the body was a lynching that they were trying to do to the subject, which was me. And I wanted to show the different parts, like the way that they did it. So people can understand how they do it and what to look out for when they're in a situation like that at work. Because they do have like a pattern and a way that they do things so that they'll be successful at terminating you or lynching you, so to speak, corporately. And if you know what to look out for, you know how to identify it when they're trying to do it, so you won't let it happen. Me, I just happen to be the kind of person where it was like I was always kind of like a step ahead of them, and I anticipated them trying to do something like that to me. So I was kind of protecting myself at all times so that when they came at me with it, it wouldn't work. But it's very interesting the way that they do things. Don't think that you're protected because you're in a union. Don't think that.
Wow. So was that something that you initially thought when you first started working there, that you were protected, like within the company, since you did work there?
Yeah, like most people who find out that a job or a place that they're working or they're employed, when they find out that they have a union, you feel like a sense of protection.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you do when you go through something at work and you realize that you're not protected, or that the actions of the union point to them not really doing things in your best interest, or seeming like they don't want to protect you? You can feel like you got nowhere to turn and you have nobody. And so basically what you have is a false sense of protection. And I lived it. I documented everything, and I just exposed everything. I didn't change the names in the book. All the situations, I just put it right out there so you can see it.
How much do you want to reveal for those who might not have read it yet, but they know that they plan to check it out?
Well, I mean, there's so much in it, in the few pages that are in there. I don't know. I mean, I'm willing to answer. This is not a thing of trying to just get people to buy the book. I want you to support the book only if you have an interest in what's going on, And I feel like you can learn something. If you want to learn something about this kind of thing, then it'll be in your best interest to pick it up so that you will know what not to do and what to be aware of when you start pursuing some kind of justice.
Right.
So, I'll answer any question you have.
So this happened at the place that you used to work at, Con Edison, and you had submitted an idea. It was all yours.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when did you notice things like started to go south and that things weren't right?
Well, it was after. Well, I had recently gotten like well, you can't call it a transfer because it was. I moved out of the department that I had worked in for like several years. Like an opportunity came up to get a better position in the company, and as soon as that opportunity opened up, I applied. And I got out. I went into a much better department, like a very lucrative department in the company. And it was at that time that I learned that the company had taken an idea that I suggested and I submitted to them, and that they were getting ready to put it out and they were going to use it. It was going to be the new corporate slogan and the new company logo they came up with and all of this kind of stuff. And I'm like, but that's identical to what I submitted.
Mm-hmm.
And it was after I raised an issue about what was being done that things started to go a little, it started becoming a little different, but it wasn't blatant until the case was over. When the case was over, that's when it was clear what was going on.
Did you feel comfortable enough to let your supervisors and just overall let the company know that, hey, this seems identical to what I created?
Oh, yeah. Well, what I did is I contacted the person who I submitted it to, the person that invited me down to submit it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that they were doing something identical to what I submitted, first thing I did was I contacted the person that invited me down. I'm like, what is this? And I wrote a letter to the CEO as well. And, the book talks about all that. It talks about what happened, talks about when I came up with the idea, what I was thinking, and, it just traces the whole thing. But yeah, I wasn't afraid. I mean, I'm not afraid. When you walk in truth, you have no reason to be afraid.
Mm-hmm. And see, this is also like very compelling too, because I think a lot of people on the job when they're at work, they want to submit ideas, especially if they're asked, because people say that's one of the things that shows that somebody is a competent employee and just, great at their job and everything. But then this also makes you wonder now, after your experience, especially, you have to protect your ideas. Like even.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I cover that as well because, there are different ways, or at least we're told that there are different ways to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was covering myself by doing what they call a poor man's copyright. But, that's looked at differently in the court of law. And so, there's ways that you have to protect yourself and do it properly. And at that time, I wasn't really, I knew about copywriting and all that, but it was just a whole different thing because at that time, I wasn't computer literate,
Mm-hmm.
As far as like knowing about the internet and having an email address and that kind of thing. So, I didn't know about certain things like that, but yeah, there's ways of protecting yourself, but you want to protect yourself properly. You want to protect yourself properly. Now it's very popular, the NDAs, the non-disclosure agreements, that kind of thing. And
were you going to add something else?
No, good.
Okay, what is the distinction though between, Charles, like protecting yourself and then like just being credited for your idea,
Yeah, well, if you first, you don't want to submit anything if it's unsolicited. If they don't ask you to submit something,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't want to submit it. If they ask you to submit it, then you get a non-disclosure agreement. and you get some kind of evidence that, look, you know, what I'm about to give you, this is not for you to use it in any way, twist it, or make any kind of adjustment to what I'm submitting to you. And now you have that on paper, and you have it in black and white. You know, at that time, I didn't know about all that. But I still had my little way of protecting myself.
As you mentioned earlier, you're public about the names and the places in the book. You don't really hide that. So why was it important to you that you were really honest and candid about everything?
Well, because, I didn't want to hide anything. I had nothing to hide, and I just felt like anybody that was a part of the story and what they did, it needed to be exposed. It really needed to be exposed. I didn't even think about not putting names in.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to see. I wanted people to see how ruthless they were. I didn't even think about not doing it. I didn't want to get it because you know how they say you want to change the names to protect the innocent.
Yeah.
There was nobody innocent in my situation. I wanted people to know what they did. They weren't innocent to me. They were guilty of what they did. So, you know, when you do something, you got to be proud of it. All the people, all of their depositions and what they said during the depositions and their actions, they got to be proud of it. If they would stand by it and they would do it, then they got to be willing to stand up to it.
Mm-hmm.
So why not share it? And I felt like there are people who could benefit from it because at first I didn't want to do it. I was just like, you know, I don't want to even seem like I'm trying to get attention and get people to, you know, just look my way. It was just something that angered me. I learned how to look past it. It bothered me for a very long time. But then it's like I got past it. I was like, you know, I'm not going to let this thing eat me alive. I'm going to get past it. And I remember I was encouraged by two different attorneys to write about it. But, you know, I didn't want to write about it. I was just like, I want to get justice. When you trying to go to court and you got all your evidence, you gung ho. You like, I want to get this thing resolved the right way. I want to hit them where it hurts. You're not thinking about writing no book about it. You want all the stuff, you know, all the evidence you got. You're like, yeah, I'm going to take this to court. Wait until this gets in front of a jury. Wait till they see this. And to go from that to talking about writing a book about it, no, that's not how I wanted to do it. And so, you know, after the second attorney had suggested that I write a book about it, I've written the acknowledgement for the book. And, I committed to writing the book, but you know how it is. Life happens and you just start doing other things and you don't really put any effort into the book. But then something came up where it was like I was asked if I had a book to present to people. And I was like, well, I know I started one. And so it was just a thing of like, okay, just do this. Just write it. Just get it over with. And I wrote it in 2 months. It's just like I was just nonstop. I had all of that evidence from the case because, you know, when you file a lawsuit, your attorney has boxes of documents that it's like, what are you going to do with it? You know, so I had actually saved it. I saved all of the documents that came from the case, and I just went right to it. And it's like once I started writing, it's like I was living it all over again. And I was just, it was a different kind of anger because being that I wasn't in it, I didn't have that anger to just punch somebody in the mouth. It was more of a thing like, you know, I kind of pulled myself out of it and it was just like I was going to show why I was angry and just put it there plain as day so that you can see what happened. I kind of pulled my emotion out of it. I didn't want the book to seem like, you get a little bit of that because it's like I'm narrating it. I'm taking you through it so that you can see what's going on. I'm laying everything out. Like the little documents that are there, I explain to you what it is, so there's no confusion about what it is as you're reading.
So you did mention that it took you a very, very long time to get over this lawsuit and this corporate crisis. What led to you getting over it? Like, what did it take? How did you heal from it?
Well, when I started stressing over it. And I started, like, my health was starting to become compromised because of it. That's when I was like, you know what? I'm not going to carry this thing around with me like that. I'm not going to let them affect my future like that. I'm just going to let it go and not let it bother me, not wake up angry because my anger was justified.
Hmm.
I know it was justified, but it's like, you don't want to wake up and go to sleep with that on your mind. You got to figure out ways of handling it. And it turned out that even though I buried it and I wasn't going to let it bother me, it's like, how you'll go through something. And although you don't think about it, when somebody brings it up, it could be 3-4 years from now. And just the thought of it, it's like, you just get angry again.
Hmm. Yep.
I had actually buried it. I buried it and I was just like, man, life goes on. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to have my lady. You can't walk with anger all the time. You got to know how to bury it and bring it up the proper way when it's time to bring it up. And it turns out that writing that book was very cathartic. That was a real good way to just get that off my chest. Because although it was buried, it was still there. And it was just amazing how just thinking about it, everything just came right back to me like it was yesterday. And I was just able to nonstop, just writing it. And then in 2 months, it was done.
Charles, who were some of your biggest champions when you were writing The Anatomy of a Corporate Lynching?
Champions?
Yeah, just anyone who was like really supporting you through the process.
Oh, man. Somebody I know named Miss Lennon.
Hmm.
Miss Lennon. Yeah.
Yeah,
Miss
let's
Lennon.
shout out to Miss Linden.
Yeah.
What is the biggest takeaway that you have from her regarding writing The Anatomy?
Just showing me the importance of expressing myself and giving me a history of just situations where people were able to talk about things and how just talking about it or writing about it can be a relief. And, she was right. She was absolutely right.
Did you have many revisions for your book within the 2 months that you wrote it?
Nah, only thing I had was additions. Because
Hmm.
once I thought it was done, it was like, no. Now I gotta add this. They gotta know about this. They have to know. And if I'm gonna put that, what about this? I gotta include that. You don't want to leave none of that out. Oh man, how was I gonna omit this? They have to know about this. I want it to be complete. So that's the only thing that kind of slowed down the process. It probably would have been sooner than 2 months that I finished. But it was just like, I wanted the reader to see everything. I wanted the book to capture everything. And then there was some things that I was like, is this even relevant to the story? Because sometimes you want to put everything into that little gumbo, but it's like you don't need everything to have the story work. So you have to figure out some of the things that have nothing to do with the story and conclude that you have to omit that stuff. And I had to be honest. I had to look at stuff and just kind of really evaluate it so that the story would be cohesive all the way through and it wouldn't go on a tangent. I didn't want anything to even appear like it was going on a tangent. Because it's very easy as a writer to, as you're into the story and you're writing, you catch one of those anger bugs. And then you start going on a tangent and talking about something that has nothing to do with the story. And it's like, nah, I want to keep that out. That'll just confuse the reader. You want to stick to the story and just keep everything relevant to what you're talking about. So just additions, no real revisions, like stuff that I wrote where it was like, I don't want them to know this part of the actual story. Everything that pertains to the story is in there.
Mhm.
If that answers your question.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. And how did
All right.
you and Christopher B. Clarke come together?
Oh, yeah. Chris that's my artist. Man. He does like whenever I have some kind of artwork to do, that's the man that I go to. He's actually the artist who did the artwork, a lot of artwork for author Omar Tyree.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Omar Tyree.
Mhm.
Yeah, this illustration, like the design is dope. Like readers, I know if you haven't seen it already, you saw the review as well that we posted up. By the way, what has been the response to The Anatomy of a Corporate Lynching so far?
Wow. Well, when we put it out on Amazon, it was like the #1 new release for 6 weeks. And everybody from Con Ed that I know,
Hmm.
I'm getting accolades. That's the lightest way I can put it. That's the humblest way I can put it. I haven't heard any complaints, and word of mouth is powerful. Word of mouth is powerful. I put it like that because people that I don't even know, come up to me and either say something about the book or say they got it or they purchased it, and it's doing well. It's really doing well.
You see that, and even people from Con Edison, they're giving their praise and stuff for the book. That says a lot.
Yeah, I can't complain. It's information in there that is vital to them because a lot of stuff people they didn't know about the very company that they work for, and I just wanted to share my experience with them.
That is so deep. Charles, what should corporations do then so their employees are not subjected to what you were subjected to?
I think corporations need to get people or put people in positions who are honest and sincerely think of the rank and file employees as family and not as subordinates. Because when you think of people as family, there's a sense of being in this together. But when you look at the employees as if they're not in it together with management, then management kind of has a holier than thou disposition toward the employees. And then you couple that with racist attitudes, and that just makes the situation even more difficult. And it just sincerity. I think they would need to be more sincere, but that's not even something that's in an ideal world. Realistically, that's not going to happen. Realistically, it's not going to happen. So if we just kind of brace ourselves and not expect that to happen, we'll kind of be on strong footing. Our footing would be good. We won't be so disappointed when we see how it really is in the corporate world. Just know what they're about. Don't anticipate them being anything other than what they traditionally have been here. I think a good place to start would be to have people in place who sincerely wanted to move the company in the direction that would benefit the entire company and make everybody feel like what they were bringing to the table for the company was worth listening to or considering for whatever it was that they were trying to do.
You gave us advice on moving and dealing with the corporate crisis. What is your advice about going about somebody self-publishing their own book based on your experience and what you've learned?
Man, well, yeah, you can do it. You can definitely do it. It's not like you have to go through Simon and Schuster or any of these other companies to do it. It's kind of like the way it is now. It's kind of like what Uber did to the medallion cabs, the yellow cabs. At one time you had to pay $250,000 for a medallion, and the price just kept going up and up and up, and only certain people could get that medallion and drive into certain areas and pick up customers. But then, when Uber and Lyft came out, it kind of shut that industry down. It's like, now these guys they got the apps and they can pick people up and they got all kind of ways and configurations to make it easy for people to get to and fro to where you didn't need no yellow cab. It's like, and that's kind of what's happening with like Amazon with their books and Kindle, and they allow you to self-publish and do your thing, and they show you, they give you the template, and you look at it, you study it, and you can do it on your own if you really want to do it.
Charles Ford, everyone. Charles, thank you so much for talking to So Booking Cool today. It was a pleasure, and we're going to definitely talk again. Would love to have you come on again in the future. Tell everyone.
I appreciate that, Jewel.
Yeah, of course. Tell everyone how they can keep up with you and definitely how they can get the anatomy of a corporate lynching.
Oh, yeah. You can get the book. It's available on Barnes & Noble's website, barnesandnoble.com. And you can get the digital version of the book on Amazon.com. Just type in the title, Anatomy of a Corporate Lynching, and you can get the paperback or the Kindle version. And I'm working on an Audible version.
Ooh.
Right, yeah, look for that. That's coming in the very near future. That's coming out this year, definitely. And I'm trying to get that out no later than June. And that's being nice right there, because there's a lot of other stuff that I'm trying to work on. But being that the book is being received so well, I definitely want to get this. I already did like the first 2 chapters. I did the Audible voiceover for the first 2 chapters. And that's going to be pretty interesting. I say that. That's all I'll say on that. It's going to be pretty interesting. So if you like the book, then you should like the Audible version also.
Yeah. What advice, I'm going to squeeze this in. What advice?
And you know what? Before you say that, I want to say that since we're on that Amazon thing, because what I learned as an author is in the book world, they're very big on the engagement of the people who read the book. So if you read it on Amazon or wherever you get it from, even if you don't want to leave any verbal review, put stars, whether you think it's a 1 or a 5, whatever it is. Engagement really means a lot in the book world. So just leave a review and let people know what you think. Because like I said, that means a whole lot in the book world. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you mentioned that, Charles. So you can rate it with stars without posting a review?
Yeah. You can rate it and say 1 star, trash, or you can put 5 stars, awesome, whatever it is that you want to put.
Right.
You don't have to, because a lot of people kind of shy away from writing reviews, for whatever reason. Some people are just ink shy, but they may feel a certain way about what it is that they read or they heard. So, I'm just asking that they leave some kind of indication of what they think about the book to show engagement. That's all.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of reviews, like Charles, you and we did have a conversation about it before we actually started the interview. But what did you think of the So Booking Cool review on the anatomy of a corporate lynching?
Oh, I thought it was really good. I thought it was funny. It was one of the paragraphs where he was like, it's like it just kept going and like in your face and not taking no shorts and punch you in the mouth. I was like, wow.
Yeah,
that was hilarious. It was cool. I mean, it felt like they checked the book out and they was familiar with what was going on, and that's a good thing, because sometimes reviews, they don't really seem like they, I don't know, like they
really got it, read it.
Yeah. And that review right there it seemed like they kind of, they went through some of them pages and they knew the story.
Are there any final messages in this interview that you want readers to take away from you as an author and as a self-publisher, and and as your book, and maybe also what we can expect in the future, like what you can share or not?
Well, the only thing that I guess I could say now is that, don't let anybody make you feel like what you have to offer isn't good or worthy of any acknowledgement, because a lot of times the only reason they don't want to incorporate your idea into what they're doing is because they don't want to have to pay you for it. They'd rather own it outright so that they don't have to give you anything. So don't ever feel like you don't have it. What you have to offer just ain't worth it. Because in most cases, it really is.
Wow. And on that note, thank you again, Charles Ford, and to all the listeners. And until next time, so booking cool.
This is Charles Ford, and you're checking out So Booking Cool right here, right now, live.